All right, so I'm just gonna make this real nice and sweet. Pretty much, I'm just gonna be talking about why people need to go out and really get an idea as to where, just kind of where Star Wars is going from this point on. Only in regards to Kylo Ren and the Rise of Skywalker. So all I'm pretty much doing is I'm trying to connect the dots to everybody out there and why they should go out and really support this movie, The Rise of Skywalker. And the reasons being is because, okay, if you take a look back at Kylo Ren's character, if you actually just take a look back and you look at just Star Wars in general, you have to understand, you have to get the idea that Star Wars is not just a, intergalactic story about spaceships and about two opposing sides who are just fighting each other in the galaxy from far, far away. It's actually more than that. It's actually a bibliomatic story where it takes moments of actual essence of social narrative and existential moments of taking, the economy for which we live in and kind of showing those representations of like Republicans and Democrats in a way, and using it from a political standing point of view of being two sides who are not entirely wrong. They're just trying to make a legitimate statement that they're trying to bring a balance within their plights or within their ideas or ideals, and trying to coexist in the same category of the world. And so when we look at Star Wars, it goes back to episode one, man. A lot of people like to knock down episode one as George Lucas. Oh, it's a big mistake, big failure. I'm gonna tell you something right now. The biggest failure that people really did not see is that they're focusing on Star Wars as the action-packed drama of the dark side of the themes of what Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker's themes were in like New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and in the Return of the Jedi. Those movies were very dark and they were very of its own core for audience fans who were from that genre at the time in the 80s, who were really big fans of that kind of material. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great material. I mean, New Hope really was talking to the people of the 80s saying, look, man, there's great stories being told out here, and it's not all about goblins and ghouls, it's really relative to our society, George Lucas is very smart what he was doing. I mean, he just took human beings and put them in space. He just took our world and put it in space. Because the questions of that, what is beyond our rooftops, for where we live here on Earth, what is in space? Because we're a world that lives in space, but what is out there? And so he put that. George Lucas stretched forth his ideas and thoughts and put that movie out there. New Hope was what came out, and Star Wars. And so when you're looking at Star Wars from a point of view of it being a representation of humanity, you gotta understand, man, this shit goes deep. So I love Star Wars, man. I love my Star Wars movies, man. And so going back to the talk about Rise of Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker is going to be, I hope it's going to be the movie that just sets the tone. I mean, Kylo Ren for me is one of the biggest and best, most evilest situations that you will ever hear of, and he's not even really evil. But to break down who Kylo Ren is just he's a representation of our next generation. So our next generation that's coming out will be an important one, because 2019 and beyond, we don't know what happens with the stories. I mean, we knew the story of Luke because, that was like the story of your parents from back then, 80s, 90s. We know the story. Episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn was like your favorite grandfather or uncle that's never been told. Only you read about him in books, but now you've seen him on big screen. You idolize the guy. Liam Neeson, great character, Qui-Gon Jinn. Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is, it's a remarkable character. It sets the tone, and he's like the headstone of all life. Obi-Wan, he is the voice. He is the Edgar Allan Poe. He is the Socrates in this regard. You know what I'm saying, of the future, and he's just that humble poet that we all need in life. And the simple "hello there" is all we need from this guy. And George Lucas brought us that. J.J. Abrams did a great job in Force Awakens critiquing it and bringing us Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren is legitimately, from a bibliomatic standing point, he is legitimately the new prophecy, if you understand. He is the son of New Asgard. He's the son of, the fallen one, of Satan. He's the guy that is spawned from, a place far beyond from our ideas, and he's the son of a rogue, Harrison Ford, man, Han Solo. So you gotta understand, he's one of the strongest Jedis out there, man. The reason why I love Kylo Ren so much is because Kylo Ren, he represents the new generation, man. He's the reason why kids are the way they are today. With all the wisdom, talent, and new genesis within their DNA to create a better world for our future, if only brought in the right direction. If taken into the future of what is to come to make it better, it takes wisdom to guide a better of great talent and wisdom. It takes that, man. It takes a Yoda, a personality. It takes a Qui-Gon Jinn. It takes a Obi-Wan Kenobi. So when we see Luke, in a sense, Luke in a way kind of failed Kylo Ren because, you scared the kid, Luke, you got to understand, the way Rian Johnson wrote him was not the Luke that we knew. But if you take it from a standing point of what you saw in Force Awakens, and the J.J. Abrams approach was the man on top of a mountain, it was symbolic for a great one after the falling of the war stands, a hero to our eyes, but a man of wealth and knowledge and wisdom, and brought forth a new hope, a next generation of a possible concurrent to a young Padawan from before that reminded us of a new hope, which was Luke himself at one point. Rey was the same representation. It was a reminder, but also of his friends that he lost almost in Force Awakens, Han dying and Leia still alive, but that hurt that he felt. But when he saw Rey, that reminder of losing a failed student, which we saw with J.J. Abrams' version of that, because it was a failed student because Kylo Ren went bad, in a sense. But if you look at the Republic in Star Wars, they're not necessarily bad people. They're just people who were brought into a direction, and they're just led by a chronoceros leader like Kylo or like Vader. These people, and you gotta think that Kylo Ren is not necessarily bad, because he's just taking up from the reins of what was left over after the Emperor and Vader died. So you gotta understand that someone had to lead that group, and it wasn't even about Kylo Ren before that, because what was his commanders, what the generals doing? So you gotta understand, and these commanders and generals, these guys are like the higher ups. These guys are more of the evil intents versus the lower people who were kind of like just like the soldiers are like the pawns. They're like the peons. They're like the guys who are just there doing the job because they're just trying to survive, In every sector, quadrant, zone that they're in, they're just trying to live. So, Star Wars is a great theme. It's a great theme. It's a great movie. And when we look at Star Wars, you got to understand that these movies are representations of our planet, in my opinion. From my point of view, it's a beautiful story, narrative on the War of the Worlds, Planet of the Galaxies, fight for what we feel is righteousness from both sides. The Jedi side, the Buddha monks who are like the last protectors of hope, who are signed on because they have these fortunate abilities that are higher connected to the soul spirit of being what that is. The guidance of their temple is the Force, the universal truth, that thing that we cannot see, the non-existent, but it's relevant to us. Almost like a priesthood, almost like Knights Templar, almost, and let's say calling them bad, but what fortunate good are they doing if not in a way kind of like, thrusting the sword of, ideas with the resistance, trying to back them in a way. So, the resistance is not necessarily good either, but not necessarily bad either, because, what are we really doing if fighting a war that really, what are we fighting for? It's trying to bring balance into the Force, into the galaxy, but you understand one side is doing what they feel is right, but again they're destroying a lot of innocent people in the process. But the other side, they're getting a lot of innocent people killed, but for a good and better cause. So you're kind of wrapped in this little, like, it's like an in between, like a limbo of just where do we go from here? And man, I just love Star Wars, man. So please, Rise of Skywalker, I just hope people, when they see this film, is just something worth watching, and that they actually understand that this is more than a movie I'm hoping that we get to see, and this is more like a relevant moment in history.